Welcome back to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. I am, as always, Chat Show. How are you? How's your day or night going? I'd love to hear from you, don't you know? Write to us at kpcsfanmail@gmail.com. What's that? Sure. Happy to repeat it. kpcsfanmail@gmail.com. I say us, write to us, because with me today is Jamie. Hello, Jamie.
Hi.
Oh, there she is. Have you hidden Sam Levine in your pocket?
He's in my purse.
In the purse. Okay. So Sam may or may not.
He's covering himself with a Purell wipe.
Of course he is. If you know Sam Levine like we do, that's hilarious. So we're here at the Earwolf Studios in Hollywood, across from the Netflix building. What do you think of that Netflix building? Did it?
I'm more concerned that we're across from an Arby's.
Yeah. Well, concerned? You mean excited?
Yes.
That was the last time you were here in the Earwolf Studios when we had.
Yes, when we had David Harbour on for the second time, and then we all went to Arby's afterwards and blew everybody's mind.
Because he was wearing a hat, not too dissimilar.
Yes, and he owned up to that. He's
Yeah.
like, why am I wearing this hat that
Yeah.
makes me look like Sheriff Hopper?
From Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Who he portrays. And
But I will say that my Arby's count for the year is very low.
Uh-oh.
That was one of 2 visits to Arby's I've only had in 2018, and it's June.
We're in the 6th month.
I know. This is not good.
We're coming up on the midway
There's
point.
none convenient to me.
Yes. No, that is the only
problem.
issue. Yeah. Well, it's a problem for sure. Have you already figured out your order that you'll be having after today's?
Maybe I've been yes.
Yep.
They have this new sandwich that
Uh-oh.
Corey Levin, who does Post on the show, and I've discussed is too much. It's a beef and cheddar, but then they throw bacon on it.
Oh, see, why?
We're like, no.
Why?
That's too much.
Why you got to do that?
Exactly.
I don't understand bacon on any kind of
It's
burger.
like beef and cheddar is already a lot going in.
Yes.
You don't need to throw bacon on there.
Please don't. Dear Arby's, there'll be a new segment on the show. Write to us. Tell us your Arby's experience at kpcsfanmail@gmail.com. Jamie's joined me today because we had a guest scheduled for today. He had to reschedule at the last minute for next week. So yesterday on Twitter and the Instagram, I posted, hey, guest canceled, or rather had to reschedule. And I'm just going to take your questions. Yeah, I didn't want to lose the studio time. We have Sam, the greatest engineer the world's ever known here. Hello, Sam. He's not.
Hello.
Alone. There he is. And I didn't want to waste anybody's time, so I thought I would waste yours by asking you to participate. You know, I get questions on Twitter and Instagram on occasion, so I thought, and I've done those AMA.
It's on Reddit, yeah.
Yeah, on Reddit. So I thought, let's do one of these.
Where Jason McIntyre gets all of his information.
Well, yeah, no, that instead of going to school, just go to Reddit.
Yes.
It's a new college, right?
Corey does it a little bit, too. Because I'm always like, where did you get? What's your source on this? Is it Reddit?
I think it's annoyingly popular at this point. So through the Instagram, the Twitter, I said that I would answer every one of your questions today. Turns out you were very boisterous and lovely to respond in multitudes, so that I will not be able to answer all of them. But we're going to get to as many as we can. Jamie's going to ask them. And
I volunteered to come and ask them.
Yeah,
delaying my trip to Disneyland today. A couple hours.
And Arby's.
And Arby's.
Delaying your trip to Arby's, let's be honest. Now you've got your priorities. What a day for you. Arby's and then
And Earwolf.
Disneyland. And your visit to Earwolf. Yeah.
Exactly.
What a grand day. All right. Well, let's
And also, yes, it's correct. I have about 3 interests.
They are
Arby's, Disneyland, The Simpsons. There's very little going on here.
Okay.
That's not true.
Your
I
sketch
like
show
other
just had
things.
another fantastic show at the West Side Comedy Theater. Go to westsidecomedy.com to check out the calendar there.
I did. And the next one will be the first Wednesday in August. We have July off because the first Wednesday in July is July 4th. But I'm happy to have a month off because we just did 5 shows in a row. So
Yeah. You're a writer and performer on the sketch team Back Alley Racket Club.
yeah, they're a very fun, talented bunch.
Man, are they.
And they take what I write and make it way funnier with their stage presence and improvising, and they're great. They're fantastic.
Yeah, and we're very thrilled for the success of the group and of your involvement therein. Do you want to read the rest of that top part about why, if people want to go back and enjoy some recent shows?
The enjoy past guests?
Yeah. What do you got there?
It just says, enjoy past guests such as recent Academy Award winners Allison Janney, Sam Rockwell, or Elon Musk, who I don't believe won an Academy Award.
He bought one.
Oh, okay. Or he put rockets on it and sent it into space. From our first year, or from a week ago, Maria Bamford and our hero and friend Ricky Gervais.
Yeah. Yes. Go through the library there and enjoy yourself. And now, your questions. What's I went ahead and put the person's real name and then in parentheses their Twitter or Instagram handle so we can promote all of you as well.
I will do my best. Sometimes it's a little difficult to read handles because they're like words mashed. So I'm going to do my best. First, Doug Skinner from, this is from Twitter, from @It'sOnlyDoug. And you are?
That's his question? And you are? Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to say. I think the first big "and you are"
David Spade.
Well, he did it.
That's what makes me think.
He did it. Yeah, he did it many years later after I started doing it, but I wasn't doing it on television. So I'm not suggesting he took it from me. He just didn't know that. Really, what I'm doing is defending my own right to have done it without taking from him. 1991, table read for A Few Good Men. Everyone in the cast is at this giant grouping of tables, as well as the studio people, production company. I mean, there's like 70 people around this horseshoe of giant tables. Rob Reiner gives a lovely speech welcoming everyone, and it's lengthy and wonderful, but lengthy. And I was the new kid at the group for sure. Everywhere you look, there's famous people. And Rob finishes this very long, and it's really saying, look, this is a table read. You're not looking for performance. There's no pressure. Have fun. But it goes on for 11 minutes. And when he finishes, I say, and you are, and brought the house down. Even Jack Nicholson laughed. So that's why I love and you are. So to answer whose question? Scott?
Doug Skinner.
Doug Skinner?
Or as I should say it, Doug Skinner.
Perfect. I am that guy. Next question, please.
Let's see. I'm not going to pronounce this right. From Nikki Lungo. Instagram @GroovyNick. Are you planning on doing another album? I like the story of you torturing Alan Arkin.
Another album. Yeah, so the Alan Arkin, he's been a guest on the show. He's one of my heroes. And I did torture him really well by phoning him repeatedly as him. Another album. So it's interesting that she said album. I don't know that we even put out albums. So there's CDs, DVDs.
What was Little Suspect
digital
an album?
Platform.
Or was that just a DVD? A Davida?
It was a Davida and a Showtime special. Yeah, it wasn't even an album. But that's why I kind of love that this Nikki person is asking for the next album. I grew up on comedy albums. Did you? Were there any comedy albums in the house?
Me?
Yeah.
I saw I had a horrible bus ride from junior high. It was like 40 minutes each way commute to my junior high school. Worst years of my life. I listened to Adam Sandler comedy albums,
right,
like the entire time.
But had you put them from an actual?
They were cassettes. I had a Walkman. Yeah.
So when I say album, I'm actually.
Well, that was my generation. Yeah. Like those were our comedy albums.
Right. Were there actual albums in the house? Like, did your family have?
We had albums, but it was a lot of like soundtracks and musicals.
But no George Carlin, no.
No, not that I recall. We did watch a lot of comedy movies.
Sure.
Which, yeah.
So I grew up on comedy albums. That's why I'm just so taken aback by her choice of the word album. I do not have plans.
Well, I think she just means like an audio copy of your stand-up.
It's a euphemism.
Yes.
Yeah, and I took it way too hard.
mean, like even though those Adam Sandler, they were cassettes, that's a comedy album.
Yeah, and it was on vinyl. I don't doubt. Mm-hmm. I would suggest for the court. No plans for a new comedy album. I'm busy at present with the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel Season 2 work, to be followed apparently by Season 3. So no albums in the works, and thank you for asking. Nikki. Next.
Ryan Pitts from Instagram @PickleCopter69.
Yeah.
Who are some of your favorite musical artists?
Oh, musical artists. Well, I must say, I was into the finding new indie rock in the last 3 to 5 years. I I think it probably started after the Zach Braff Garden State movie. I started realizing, he just cherry-picked all these indie bands that I...
And he won a Grammy for making a mixtape.
That's right.
I think I've said that before on the show.
He did. And he's going to be on the show finally, either next week.
My friend from back home, Robin Barngrover, she made a great joke whenever his second movie came out, The Last Kiss, and he did the soundtrack for that as well. She's like, it's like he took all the artists from the Garden State album and just went to track 2.
No. Wow. He used all the same artists. Is what? Nope.
No, that's just a really good joke.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Went to track 2. So yeah, I kind of got into the indie rock scene there, and then fell madly in love with early Kings of Leon. I've enjoyed all their recent stuff, but the early albums, oh man, it's an extraordinary rock and roll sound that I kind of grew up on in the 70s, very influenced, and then I love the documentary about them. They basically came from hillbillies, as they're comfortable saying themselves, according to the documentary. And then Jack White, crazy loving all the adventures that he's taken me on in the last, 5-6 years since I started drilling down. What other artists? I know every time we get into the car, it's The Bridge on Sirius.
That's me, which is basically like yacht rock.
That's
it's
right.
Like 70s and early 80s mellow rock.
Yeah. And
which is me, because it's like Paul Simon, James Taylor, Rod Stewart, Elton John.
I feel like it started ironically, and now it's just the music we listen to.
Those are the artists so my taste comes from my sister Jacqueline, who's 10 years older than I am. So it was like a lot of those artists, and then a lot of like the contemporary music for her would have been like 80s new wave. So I love like any 80s pop, of course, and like 80s new wave. So these are like my go-to artists.
And Michael McDonald.
Yes, and Michael McKenny Loggins. And Christopher Cross, who I will be seeing at the Hollywood Bowl this summer.
But those seem like the opposite of 80s new wave.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So what?
So there's our musical taste. Who's next?
No one's asking me these questions, but I don't think anyone's interested in what I do.
But you're here, so let's engage.
Let's see. Which is funny, because our next question, Ken McCrory from Twitter, at Big Mac with 2 G's, 2 K's, doesn't Jamie want to go? Well, I'm here. So there you go. That was the question.
Doesn't Jamie want to go? Oh, because I must have written, I'm still going in to answer questions.
Yes, doesn't Jamie want to go? Well, I went, so I'm here. So you got what you wanted, unless you didn't want that.
Unless you really didn't. Careful what you wish, I believe, is the takeaway.
This one, in the words of Stephen Tobolowsky, is a doozy. Okay. Tony Varney from Instagram, at Tony Varney 1966. I'd love to hear more about starting out. My daughter has the "Hey, look at me" disease that you speak of, and for her, acting and making people laugh is not a want, it's a need. She is starting Southern Oregon University in the fall. FYI, I grew up in San Carlos and remember this Circle Star Theater. Loved your book. Thank you.
What's that person's name?
Tony Varney.
Tony Varney.
With an I.
Sure.
Not like with a Y, like Janet Varney.
Or Jim Varney.
I want Janet. She's our friend.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, look at me disease. Yeah, spoke about that a lot in the book and the documentary. As all performers, I mentioned to twice past guest of the show, Will Forte, last night. Jamie and I were enjoying the hell out of a dining experience.
He lives in the neighborhood. People don't like to leave there.
Your friend Joey was throwing over the food.
You make friends with people that live in your neighborhood in L.A. You don't want to leave your neck of the woods.
That's right. It's too spread out. And we were talking about you were writing on the sketch team, actually, Back Alley Rocket Club, and how you started with them as a writer, and now you're more involved in sketches, but you don't suffer like we do from the "Hey, look at me" disease. So the deal is,
no, I'm happy to fill in if they need me. There's been one time where they were doing a sketch and it looked super fun, and I was like, write me in. That looks like fun. And that was just because they were having so much fun doing it. And it was also like one of those sketches where you're just piling on the joke. Like each person that that came onto the stage was just piling onto the joke, so it only helped to have me pile on.
Yeah.
But
more, please.
But so they were having so much fun. I was like, no, write me in. That's the only time I've been like really eager to be put in something.
Yeah. Whereas your daughter, Mr. Varney, Tony? Sure. Tony, I would say be loving and supportive, let her find her way, and encourage her to actually do the work, because that's the way she's going to find out if she loves it.
Yeah, don't say things like, if you don't like it, you can quit, like my family does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whereas my family said very little about anything. So, so that's why I would encourage you, Tony, to be proactive with her and encourage her to be proactive, to find out if this is a calling or a phase. But support your local, "Hey, look at me," is what I would say. Thank you, Tony.
Oh, next question is from our buddy George Ruiz from Instagram @GeorgeRuiz.
Yeah.
What is the best steak in LA and in New York?
George Ruiz, I will tell you, he's been such a friend to the chat show from the day one. So I was at the big agent, represented by the big agency ICM for way too many years. And when I started the chat show, I didn't tell them about it. I didn't tell anybody about it. I just announced on Twitter that I was going to do this. And within 6 weeks, we're on the front page of LA Times, which, as it turns out, only 7 people read. But things are happening quickly. And he was an agent who had come from business affairs and then had sort of gone, and this is 9 years ago, gone into ICM and said, "Hey, I want to start I guess it wouldn't be social media, it would be internet content division of the agency."
Right. Like he wanted to represent people that were getting like internet famous. I guess.
And he was...
Because Felicia Day was like his first big client, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and he was the first one to negotiate a huge deal for an internet content provider. But it was the first time one of the agents who had just taken it upon themselves to reach out and say, "How can I help?"
Because he was a fan.
Yeah, and I thought he was an alien because I wasn't that familiar with agents being that proactive. So much love and respect all these years, of course, to the great George Ruiz, who has believed in us and this from the get. So his question, what's the best steak in LA and New York? We just had an incredible steak, and we talked about it being, this may be the best one I've had. Where were we?
I think my favorite, actually, which is a restaurant that's not necessarily known for its steak, is Osteria Moza. Has that, if you get their steak, it is like, I don't know what that rub is that they're putting on there.
Osteria, yeah.
Yeah. That steak is delicious, and it comes with those potatoes that taste like donuts. Somehow.
They do taste like salty donuts.
Oil. Yeah, I think it's like the oil that they're cooked in.
Yeah, I mean my go-to is Mastro's for sure. Ocean
Mastro's
Club.
You're never gonna get.
You're never gonna have
bad meal.
And ask the wonderful creators of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Amy Sherman Palladino, Dan Palladino. Let's go to dinner. What about Mastro's? Oh God, yes, please. Are you carnivores? Yes, we are. And it's always a phenomenal steak. So I'm going to have to stay true to that. But
Mastro's is a chain.
Well, it's now a chain, of course, and I know that bothers you, but it doesn't bother me. It's just a great steak, and that's
no, it doesn't bother me. I just don't like. It's not exclusive to Los Angeles, I guess, is my
right. Yeah,
and that was his question.
Yeah, so
that's the other thing too, because I feel like the best steak I had in New York would be Wolfgang's, which is they now have here.
Yeah, right.
Which is because it was like the guy, Bobby Flay told us this, name drop, that it was the guy from Peter Luger that liked to opened up his own place in town, like in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And it was, but now they have one here as well.
And then for New York, I guess it would be Wolfgang's. Although I will say, Cut, C-U-T, Cut, in Vegas is still the best steak. It's better than the cut here in Los Angeles. That's still the best steak I've had. And that's, So I'll go with Wolfgang's in New York for sure, and I'm going to stick with Mastro's here in LA.
Absolutely.
What do you got? What's next? Thank you, George.
Michelle McDermott from Twitter at Michelle McDermott. What is your newest impression that you're working on?
Working on being the unfortunate part of that question. Too lazy, and a little consumed now with the Maisel, and I'm allegedly directing another movie in the fall. So, not a lot of nose to the grindstone on what's the next impression. So the last one I stumbled across really was probably Liam Neeson, which came out of Jason Statham, which are probably a couple of years old now. Although we just heard Benedict Cumberbatch do
Alan
Rickman, and it sounded instantly flawless, but also doable.
Right.
Because it's such a specific...
Because I also thought whenever he went to do it, I was like, well, they both just have British accents. I was like, oh, no, it's not that at all.
He lowered his own voice, and then there's strange echoey thing within his own... I got to figure it out. So I'm going to try to crack Alan Rickman.
Why don't you call up Benedict Cumberbatch?
Yeah, that's right.
Ask
him about his cheekbones, and if you can touch him.
No, I just want to touch his mouth.
Okay.
I don't want to touch it.
So specific.
Yes.
He's a new awakening in the house.
Well, because I became obsessed with Doctor Strange.
Yep.
And then I had to go back and watch everything Benedict Cumberbatch, who of course I was aware of, and I'd seen a lot of his work. I just wasn't obsessed with his cheekbones and his mouth.
We're digging the new Melrose.
You know what? I don't know about
you. You don't know if you are digging
because Patrick Melrose, which is a Showtime miniseries that Benedict Cumberbatch is currently running. The first episode was amazing.
It's all about him.
Yeah, and then the rest of them, I feel like have been so depressing and dark.
And not enough about him for me.
Right. I don't know. I don't know. They're just so...
Yeah, it's dour.
It's very dour.
Yeah.
And there's only 5 episodes. The last one airs tomorrow, so...
Excited still. Can't stop.
No, it's good. It's great. It's just the first episode's fun. Is so much fun because you're watching him spiral.
His character, yeah.
Right. And then after that, it's a lot of well, this is why he's spiraling. And it's I didn't need the backstory.
Yep.
I don't know.
That's right. So I'm going to work on. I'm going to try to work on the impression of Cumberbatch doing Alan Rickman. Maybe that's if I could get them both. That would be the challenge. But thank you for the question.
All right, Chad Denick from Twitter and Instagram at Chad Denick. This question is for Jamie, me. What do I know Kevin from? Well, if you probably sticking your head really far up his ass. That's probably what you know him from. I'm sorry, Chad. I had to do that. It's just he's a Uber fan, and he is constantly writing to us, and we've met him. He volunteers at Sketchfest, right?
And he's listening.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's fine. That's why I'm sure he'll love that I said that.
Okay.
No, but this is funny. The reason he asked that was because people that will be too shy to approach Kevin will come up and ask me, what do I know? What do I know him for? Or what do they want me to guess what they know him from?
Yes.
Is the game. They want me to guess what, and then it becomes I try to figure out the demographic.
Yes.
If it's somebody...
17 to 25.
Yeah, if it's somebody young, I try. I say it's probably she's all. If somebody's my age, it's probably House Arrest or She's All That. Maybe Grumpy Old Men. If it's somebody older, it's definitely A Few Good Men or Casino. It's you gotta pick.
Right. Yeah, it's a fun game, and thank you for asking, Chad. Next question.
Are you laughing because I blasted him? It was kind of funny.
Yeah, sure. It's definitely.
Kathy Wayne, Twitter at. I'm just going to spell it out. TUGHILLCAM.
None of that makes sense.
Tug Hill Cam. I believe it is. Just saw The Price is Right doc you're in. How did you find out about the story? Which somebody else had mentioned this to me, that you were listed in the IMDb credits for the Price is Right doc, and I'm I have no idea what you're talking about.
So there's this guy, and I think I wrote his name down.
C.J. Wallace.
Yeah, he directed
with an
it.
IS.
He directed it, but the documentary is about this other guy, Weiss.
That's the filmmaker, yeah. Oh, yeah,
Terry
Kinese.
Terry Kinese made the perfect bid, and it's because he figured out.
I've read
game.
this.
Yeah.
Synopsis.
Synopsis.
No, an extended magazine article on this story.
Yeah.
Where this guy basically, there was a pattern to The Price is Right, and he would VHS record it.
Yeah.
And would go back and watch it, and he just figured out the pattern, and it was not a perfect bid, but it was
No,
within,
it was a perfect bid.
It was.
That's literally what it's called. It's all about this perfect.
I thought it was
bid.
in a couple cents or something.
No, that's why people freaked out, because it was perfect. Mm-hmm. So this filmmaker, C.J. Wallace, just contacted me through Twitter and asked, saying he was doing this documentary about this guy and this perfect bid. I think the film might even be called Perfect Bid, and because we had Drew Carey on the chat show, and he wanted to include an interview segment from the chat show in the film, wherein Drew discusses this perfect bid guy and the history of it, which Drew knew a lot about. So that's how I ended up being involved in the film, and the chat show is involved in the film. And
it's all coming together.
Yeah, that's the story. I can't wait to see it. It's already won some awards at film festivals.
You're the one with all the awards. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Lee J from Instagram at Poverty Bay West. Best character you have played and the best that you wanted but got away from you. So I guess so best character you have played, and then I guess one you wish you had played.
So
and then you lost the role, I guess.
I'd have to break it into comedy and drama. Comedically, the most fun I had playing a character was in a movie that didn't work, and it's not good. It's called The Whole 10 Yards, a sequel to The Whole 9 Yards. The film doesn't really work at all. But the character I played was this 80-year-old Hungarian mobster, Laszlo Gogolank. He talked like this. And giant, I sort of just created the look with the shock of white hair and the big Lou Wasserman glasses, or Martin Scorsese has adopted those big, thick frame glasses now. And he was a menacing lunatic who was goofy and silly also, Laszlo Gogolank. So that was the most fun I've ever had, aside from the 4.5 hours of prosthetic makeup every morning and an hour and a half to take it off at night. It really was a ridiculously fun character to really tap into all the comedic instincts that I developed over the years, because I was given sort of free rein. Maybe that's why the film didn't work. And then dramatically, going back to, was it film? Did I ask about film specifically? Or
they
just
said
role?
character.
Okay, because then I have to be truly honest. The character I'm playing, and not just to plug, right now in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, my entire life has led up to playing Moish Maisel, and I am the luckiest human being alive to have this second coming, if you will, at my old age. This is the most fun I've ever had, completely enveloping. As I have joked to my friends, as a character actor all these years while being gainfully employed, if I'm in a 6-page scene with the big star in the movie, at the top of the 6-page scene, I'll say, so what do you think we should do? And then the star of the movie will talk for 6 pages, and then I say, all right, let's go. But in this show, the way Amy Sherman-Palladino and Dan Palladino write it, and specifically my character, he's a blowhard. He doesn't listen, so he's just talking straight through 6 pages. And I've never had to work this hard for such reward, and it's a gift that I will never stop celebrating, and hopefully will last 8.3 years. And it's dramatic also. So I'm going to say that runs the gambit. That's my favorite of all time.
Okay, but this and the second part was, is there a part that got away from you?
Oh, sure. Oh, gosh, yes. Always. Always. That's the way it goes. Nothing's shooting to mind, because I figured out a way somewhere in my late 40s how to let go of stuff like that, because there's no gold in them thar hills. So nothing comes to mind, but oh, yes. Oh, of course. The shots have gotten away. You betcha. What else you got?
Okay. Todd Webb Twitter and Instagram handle is at toddbot.com. Toddbot.
He's the artist that did the Willow drawing.
Oh, right. Yeah, his work is often at Gallery 1988.
Check him out. What was his Twitter handle and Instagram handle?
Toddbot.com. If you also go to Gallery 1988, you can, I believe he's one of the artists featured often. Right. So you can find him that way too.
And that's all spelled out, that toddbot.com. There's no actual dot.
Yeah.
DOT.
But yeah, he did. They were doing a series, a recent show at the gallery was 30 years later. So they were doing movies from obviously 30 years ago, and Willow was one of them.
Yeah.
And he did this adorable. It's Sharpie and crayon, right? Yeah. It's Sharpie and crayon drawing of you and Rick Overton from Willow.
Me and Rick Overton as the two brownies, Rule and Frangine, which I purchased. Yeah, I loved it. It hangs in my office.
And Todd's question is, when's the Houdini biopic going to happen?
So this is what Penn Jillette, I asked Penn Jillette to write, I have 2 forwards to the only book I put out, How I Slept My Way to the Middle, not just a funny title and it's technically still available. And I got Billy Bob Thornton to write a forward, and then Penn Jillette wrote a forward, and his entire forward was dedicated to why am I not in a Houdini film as Houdini? Because if you know what the actual guy looked like, Eric Weiss was his name, terrific Jew, father was a rabbi, Mr. Houdini. We at some point, I think I'm past it now, but maybe in my early 50s, I looked ridiculously like him in the right light. So Penn would not shut up about it, and I think that might be where this question came from. And he was also a hero of mine as a kid. I did not follow the path of magic, but I was obsessed with the character. You know what? There it is. I was up for the TNT movie to play Houdini, although they didn't do it the way of the age of the Houdini that Penn Jillette would like me to do, and that's why they picked Joe Handsome from That Thing You Do. I quit.
Oh, yes. He has a bizarre last name.
Schlatter or Skachner?
Because he had a follow-up comment, which was he recently saw the extended version of That Thing You Do and thoroughly enjoyed the extra Vic Koslovich scenes.
Oh, yeah. I loved working on That Thing You Do. Tom Hanks.
That is one of my favorite movies
and
of all time.
Soundtrack.
I've owned that soundtrack in 3 different forms. I have owned it on cassette. I have owned it on CD, and I have it digitally on my phone.
That's right.
Via Jonathan, I can't even say it. It's Schaeech.
Maybe that's why.
And it's Jonathan is spelled bizarre.
Here, let me see it, because I Schaeech. I think it may have been the AE. So just Shake, probably. Sheck, Jonathan Sheck. Let's go with that. Crazy handsome. The fact that he and I would ever be up for the same part is ludicrous. But he and I screen tested or something. So I think they were going to go with, let's go with what Houdini really looked like, or let's make him wildly handsome. And they went that route.
I do quote him from that movie quite a bit with I quit, Mr. White.
Mr. White. I quit.
I love that movie so much.
Thank you for the question. And next question, please.
Brad Caney, Instagram at BS Caney. Share your favorite memory of Michael Clarke Duncan.
Have I told that story on the show? I feel like I might have.
Probably. It's in the book.
It's in the book. I don't want to answer a question by saying buy the book, but there is a
Which was the name of the bookstore Ellen worked on the show? Ellen.
Buy the book?
Buy the book was the name of the bookstore.
Yeah. You like that because that's a triple play on words.
Also, I just love useless trivia like that.
Yeah, you do. Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy. Cabs ahead! So I'm going to say, it's just too long. It really is too long. So, but it asks for my favorite memory, because that's not my favorite.
No, that's not a good memory at all.
No, it's a horrible.
So what's a good memory of Michael Clarke Duncan?
My good memory of Michael Clarke Duncan is that he was he's beloved, and so it was difficult.
Human Giant.
That's
where the name came from.
Was Michael Clarke Duncan's character or the?
No, somebody had called Michael Clarke Duncan Human Giant, And that's where
the comedy.
Hubel and Shear and Aziz got the name for their team, Human Drive.
That wouldn't be some of that marvelous trivia you were just talking about.
Rob Hubel told it on a recent episode, I think, of Doughboys, maybe?
Yeah.
That's what I heard it from.
So he had become quite difficult. He had come to Whole Nine Yards from the movie that he was nominated for Academy Award and working with Tom Hanks. And I think people filled his head with, you're going to win an Academy Award. And suddenly he had this air about him on set that he was way more important than Bruce Willis or Matthew Perry or anybody else that was in the movie. Amanda Peet. And it was very uncomfortable and weird. And again, he's so beloved, so it was difficult to say anything. In fact, when my book was about to come out, about 5 weeks before it came out, he passed away early, heart disease, I think. And the publisher called me and said, "Do you want to keep the Clarke Duncan story in there because it's dark and not favorable?" And I thought for 4 seconds and said, "You don't get a pass for dying," because he really was a prick on the set, and went on to a historical pricky on movie sets. So my favorite might have been when I was sitting on a beach trying to vacation, and Bruce Willis called me to say they were going to do a sequel called The Whole 10 Yards. And I said, "Well, Bruce, I don't know if you remember, my character died in the first movie, so what are you calling me to rub it in?" And he said, no, we're going to bring you back as your character's father, which is that Laszlo Gogolak character I talked about that I later enjoyed playing. So he said, "You're going to play Yanni Gogolak's father." And I went, "Oh, shit, that's amazing. Is everyone coming back?" He said, "Yeah, everyone but Michael Clarke Duncan. He can suck my dick." So that might have been my favorite moment because it was all crystallized that someone's bad, horrible behavior or on set in an otherwise professional setting ended up biting them in the ass. And it was a great lesson that I do like to share, even though, again, the guy's beloved and nobody wants to hear these bad things about someone who's so beloved. But that's what happened, folks. It's only funny to me because it's the truth. Next question, please.
Alex May from Instagram at Alex has an iPhone. That's great. Alex has an iPhone. Beautiful.
That's her handle?
Yeah, or he.
Yep, sure.
Alex could be, I don't know.
I think I remember seeing the photo.
We'll say they to be politically correct. If you do not know the gender, you have to refer to that as they.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the world we're living in. Who is Kaiser Soze?
Turns out he's a pedophile. Next question.
You don't want to get into any
That's it.
Kevin Spacey stories? Okay. Michael Miller from Twitter at Mike_BX. Tell us about your worst stand-up gig.
There's been so many. My worst. I think my go-to is just when I was performing very early in my career in San Jose, California, before I'd made the big shift to San Francisco, which was the, birthplace and loving, supporting, coddling audiences for stand-up comedy. But in San Jose, I forced myself into a situation where there were no stand-up clubs. There were I call them shit kicker bars because there would be local bands, cover bands, in the long, narrow bars. At the far end would be the stage. And so when the band decided to take a break, I would say to the ownership, "Well, let me go on and do stand-up for free." And they did. This almost
sounds like a little bit like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yeah, but she started out in a place where people were doing.
Well, they were like showcase. It would
showcase room, but this was just shit kicker bar, just devoted to a cover band and women and men trying to get laid. Is the focus of this bar. So when the band
meat market, if you will,
a meat market indeed. So when the band takes a break, it's the only chance that the guys have their first opportunity to buy a drink for a woman, and a woman to have a drink bought for her, and that whole encounter. And then there's a guy on stage at the far end of the room doing Columbo, and no one was listening or cared. Even if there were people that were their seats at the bar were right in front of me, I was looking at their backs, and it really was the way I came up. So there was one night where
it was almost like your gig over the weekend at KC.
Almost, although they were theater seating looking at me. So someone came up from the audience. Someone was giving me shit, and I started giving it back. People were laughing, and then he stood up right out of a movie, 6'9", 280 pounds, like in Lost in America, when he stands up and says, "I'm going to kill you," to Robert Brooks. And so this guy walked on stage, walked around the side, came up on stage, and as he came towards me, I thought, fight or flight. Flight instantly took over. I handed him the microphone and jumped off the stage and sat in his seat and heckled him. So I tried to turn a positive into a negative, but he just scared the absolute piss out of me. So that I would say he wins in my memory banks, having created the worst moment on stage for sure. Next question.
All right. Omar Haukson.
That's why I wanted you to do this.
So you didn't have to mess him up.
Yeah.
Haukson from Twitter at OSWAREZ. I'm just spelling them out.
Sure.
Do you have a copy of the poster that I did for Borealis framed over your bed?
Borealis, yeah.
Borealis.
So I just saw...
Aurora Borealis.
That's right.
At this time of year, at this time of day, all concentrated in your kitchen. Yes. May I see it? No.
And that's from...
The Simpsons. That's steamed
right.
hams.
Steamed hams, yeah.
Steamed hams. Chalmers.
Chalmers.
Superintendent Chalmers. Or as Ralphie calls him, Super Nintendo Chalmers.
That's right. Oh, let's not go down that path. There'll be Simpsons quotes for an hour and a half. What was the question?
Sorry. Yeah. Do you have a framed copy of the poster I did for Borealis framed over your bed?
Borealis. First thought is I just saw Joey King, the actress who's the lead character in Borealis, has a new show out, the name of which I can't remember, but I just saw her doing some press on it. Look that up, Joey, like Joey Chait.
Shout out to Joey Chait.
Joey King, a wonderful young actress, and who's starring in another show, which is great. Her and a handsome guy. Young, handsome guy. It's like two names. Her name and his name is the name of the show. So I enjoyed doing the Borealis. I do not have the poster. I believe your question was only to sort of promote the fact that you did a poster for Borealis. And I damn you for, and yet smiling while I damn you, for your question that was wildly self-serving.
I don't know. This is her. I don't.
Yep. So go on to the next question and I'll... Kissing Booth. That's the name of it.
That is not two people's names.
Nope.
That's why I'm
really
like,
isn't.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The name of the promotional video that they did together was his and her name. And, the Kissing Booth is the name of the new show. And, check it out. She's a great talent, and I enjoyed working with her in Borealis. What else you got?
Daniel Durasso from Instagram at Daniel_Durasso. Who is funnier, Jeremy Piven or Stephen Baldwin?
Yikes. Well, I'm not sure Stephen Baldwin would know funny if you hit him in the face with the funny shovel, for a Bugs Bunny reference. And Jeremy Piven has been funny in things, for sure.
Grosse Point Blank comes to mind. He's pretty good in that.
And the first season of Entourage, when it was still somewhat interesting, his character, Ari, was very funny. I'm just not enjoying the word on the street as much. So it's difficult for me to celebrate any artist when their street cred is bad. So I think the question also is clearly designed to be ironic or funny itself. So I salute you with your efforts in tying me up, and I tried to answer your comical question sincerely, and I would like that stricken from the record. Next question.
Okay. Elliot Steingart from Instagram at Elliot Steingart. What's a great story that was cut from your book?
Well, now we are getting to Kaiser Soze as the pederast. Alleged. Are we still saying alleged? I don't think actual charges have been brought or convicted. Yes. So I put another story I wanted to put in the book, and the publisher said, do you really want to be the one to out Kevin Spacey, who's now outed himself? but didn't the book come out, do you think, 4 years ago?
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So 4 years ago, when he was deep, deep, deep in the closet, unless you knew him, and then everyone who did knew that it was a struggle, why the publisher was right for saying, do you really want to be the one to out him? And the answer was quick and easy, which is, yeah, no, it's not my responsibility to out someone ever. Let him deal with that demon on his own time. Not knowing about the pedophilia, which are the charges that have removed him from show business as I speak. But at the time, in 1994, when we were shooting The Usual Suspects, Kevin Spacey was involved in the single worst moment of evil that I've ever experienced on the set of a movie. So we shot Usual Suspects. People can't believe this, but in a little under 6 weeks, for no money, we were paid coffee and donuts. People always ask, did you know what it was? We just knew it was the greatest script any of us had read. It did go on to win the Academy Award, so we weren't crazy to think that. But the director was 25, the writer was 25. Little backstory. And the director, Bryan Singer, was openly gay while we were shooting and had a young boyfriend, 17 or 18, don't remember, Frederic from Paris, who so openly affectionate towards each other that Frederic was kind of the mascot, and everyone would rub his head like you would a puppy, and for luck. And Kevin had sort of, as I was told, let Bryan know that he was in fact gay. So it was a secret that they shared. And then on the third to the last night of production, I got out of my car and I was walking to the trailer. And I see Gabriel Byrne. He says, have you heard what's happened? Very dark Irish, my dear loved friend, Gabriel Byrne. Brooding would be a good word. Also, one of the biggest sex magnets I've ever been around for the opposite sex. Or maybe the same sex. I don't know. I've only seen the opposite sex react, and it's crazy for Gabriel Byrne. So he says to me in that very dour, dark Irish, have you heard what's happened? No, Gabriel, I just got here. Come to my trailer. I go to his trailer. He closes the door, and he starts the story with my favorite word of the story, apparently. I'll give you a moment with that. Apparently, last night when Bryan went to Kevin's trailer to say goodnight, as he does every night, apparently, knocks on the door, walks in to say goodnight to Kevin, and he did last night. Kevin was having his way there with Frederic. And it's awful, it's horrible, it's gone to shite. And Bryan put Frederic on a plane this morning to Paris. Bryan and Kevin aren't talking. Kevin's getting his direction from the second AD, and we're all fucked. Do you hear me? Everything we've done in the film is fucked. It's all going down the toilet. And so if you have to wrap your brain around this by putting it in heterosexual terms, the director had his young girlfriend with him from Paris, and the star of the film that the writer and director turned down financing and held out that they would only do it with Kevin Spacey, betrayed that trust with the director by sleeping with his young girlfriend. And in terms of the trust necessary between a writer and a director and a lead of a film, in terms of the power and the ego that went behind, I'm going to have my way with your girlfriend, even if it was the boyfriend was compliant, the crime against the creative forces and the friendship and the solidarity of Bryan holding that I'm also gay secret of Kevin, just all of it added up to just a horrible, horrible nightmare. They didn't speak to each other for 10 years. None of what I'm telling you in terms of my own understanding and perspective of experiencing it is alleged, while these current charges are. And it's been enough that he's been removed from show business. So I guess that's one way of his acknowledging that there's some truth behind it. But it's something that was really one of the questions I also found of yours through Twitter and Instagram was, was there one moment, maybe Jamie will find this, was there one moment throughout your career where you questioned it was so awful and horrible. I can't be a part of this anymore. That was as close as I got. Show business was too steeped in my DNA for me ever to say those words. I can't do this anymore. But that was a feeling of loss, hope, and betrayal at an apex that I've experienced in my professional or personal life.
Here's the question. I know. Yeah. I found the question.
It came from
Tim Bremer from Instagram, safety meeting supervisor. Was there any point or event in your Hollywood career where you witnessed or were part of something that made you shake your head and say, I can't be part of this?
Yeah, that was it. That was the precipice. Answering 2 questions in 1.
Good job.
We're flying through this hour. We're doing great. Let's get to a couple more.
I have like 1 more page of questions, I think.
Sweet.
I lied.
Sorry to get so heavy on y'all, but shit got crazy. So I'm trying to answer your questions from the
All right, here. This will be a fun one. Brian C. Wood from Twitter, BCW Tiger fan. What was it like to do the Grumpy Old Men movies? And are you proud of the work you did on those films? And did they leave an impact going forward? And I didn't find, you showed me this yesterday that somebody had, I think, tweeted at you, but I don't see it on here, they wanted you to share Burgess Meredith stories.
Yeah, so I took screenshots of some Instagram questions, which I have on my phone, one of which I want to get to. Remind me of that after this. So Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau. Jack Lemmon had this 18-year-old boyfriend from Paris named Frederic, and Walter Matthau really no, that's not right. It was studying at the feet of greatness. It was they were both heroes of mine growing up because they were character actors who got to be movie stars. So they represented a fantasy for me. So then to be around them was like working with Mount Rushmore, like working with movie history in your face. And then you've got Anne Margaret, childhood fantasy of mine also, who was sweet beyond compare. Then you got Sophia Loren in the sequel, had not starred in a movie in 25 years, a living legend like Italian royalty, and all these things wrapped up together. And you're in proximity with these people, and the premise is we're all on equal footing and we're all co-stars, which to this day baffles me and makes no sense to my little fanboy brain. So all of that every day was a quiet, personal, private celebration. And then Daryl Hannah is also incredibly fun. I remember we both got our early laptops. What year would we have shot the Grumpy Old Men movie? Jamie, you will know?
92.
Yeah, so emails in 92, 93. I remember the Geek Squad was started in Minnesota, and they came to the set and hooked up way off 97.
No, it came out in 93. You would have done it in 92.
Yeah.
I'm that good. I'm that good.
That's creepy. You were 10. So
I was 11 when the movie came out.
That's right. So a lot of extraordinary memories, to be honest with you. And then Burgess Meredith, which was another question, who I'd loved in 4 different episodes of The Twilight Zone. But also in my youth as the
born old, as I say,
as the Penguin on the Batman television show. It was probably the first time I ever saw him. And then, so all of those things and every aspect of it, and Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon shared the largest hotel suite in all of Minneapolis, St. Paul. They found out there was another bedroom at the far end of this thing with a giant foyer and living space with a baby grand piano and kitchen, and they kicked over the other door so that the odd couple lived together while we were shooting. And it was just, they'd have us up for meals, and Jack Lemmon would be playing piano. Several other stories, again, in the book. But it was arguably one of the top 3, I'm going to say, greatest experiences of working on any movie and being around giant, legendary movie stars. Loved it. And one of the few sequels that worked.
It's true. That's that, and in another sequel you were involved in, Wayne's World 2. I think that they were just as good as their as the
Especially
original.
comedy sequels don't seem to hold up.
Oh, gosh. And they do that constantly these days. Not only do they do that, they tend to give them trilogies.
Yeah.
It's like the first one killed, like a Pitch Perfect or a Hangover.
Yeah.
And then they're like, let's make it a trilogy. And then the next two are abominations.
Well, honey, it's called greed.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you got?
Sorry.
Oh, let me get that one from
from your phone?
Instagram because it's someone we know.
Okay.
And I wanted to include...
Do you want me to ask you something while you're looking it up?
No, because I'm going to find it. It is so close.
Should we cut this?
No, I think I found it. Okay, here we go. Chad Reinhardt. Ring a bell?
Yes, he's a friend of mine from the West Side Comedy Theater.
Friend of all of ours. Two questions.
His
One,
icon, Sober Deeds.
One, that's right.
He's the sober version
of a friend of ours.
Of another friend of ours.
Yeah. First question, you up, bro? Yes. Second question, any interest in producing/directing an improvised sitcom? I'm listening. So, Chad Reinhardt, let's talk further about that. All right. Next question you have. Jamal.
Oh, that was it? You're just going to talk to Chad privately? That wasn't necessary. Wasted all the time.
Well, I'm not going to go into. I wanted to acknowledge him that he participated. That's why it was funny. Cryptic.
Okay. W. Jeff Crawford from Instagram at W. Jeff Crawford. W. Jeff Crawford.
Sure.
Which celebrity impression? What celebrity impersonation person do you most admire? Like you do a Killer Shatner, but he is the person you admire, respect the most. Okay, I get it. So who do you do an impression of that you admire the most? I bet it's Alan Arkin.
It is Alan Arkin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I admire the hell out of Christopher Walken, of course, and he's my favorite impersonation to do. That question came up several times. Thank you for those. I admire him greatly, but Alan Arkin I know as a person more. I've had a couple
What about Albert Brooks?
Personal encounters. And then comedic hero of all time is Albert Brooks, so I'm glad you brought that up as well. And also so few people have done an Albert Brooks. I think David Coulier is the only other person I've heard impersonate Albert Brooks. So yeah, Albert Brooks and Alan Arkin. Those are the two.
And you also say, too, when you speak as Albert Brooks.
I think when I'm impersonating Albert Brooks, my brain works faster and funnier in his...
cadence or voice.
Yeah. I get into his thoughts. That's the key of doing an impersonation. You know you've nailed it when you're thinking like the person, or as you would imagine.
It was like me doing my Sherlock impression the other day when I'm doing fake math.
Yeah, but let's not share that one because that's. But yes, it's exactly right. Now
I was thinking so quickly. Okay, Bridget Ann, Johansik.
Sure.
And I'm just going to spell out her Instagram handle at BAJANOUSEK. Were you active in the theater department at your high school?
Pioneer.
Pioneer High School.
Pioneer High School. Great question. I wasn't active until my senior year, and it's a regret of mine. I was class clown. I was way into stand-up comedy. Yes, you were. We were both featured in our respective yearbooks, a few years apart, as class clown. But really in terms of I was more focused on lip-syncing comedy albums all through junior high and high school and wasn't thinking in terms of theater or acting. And finally, my senior year, I was brought in to be a part of Godspell because that was a big thing in the 70s.
That was my first production I was in high school was Godspell.
Shut up. That would have been.
You knew that.
That would have been in the 90s, though.
Yes.
Yeah. I did know that. But my character in the
97.
Godspell was the only one who didn't have a solo.
Me too.
Stop it. We played the same character?
I didn't have a solo. I had a couple monologues, but I didn't sing.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre because I don't think I'm that horrible of a singer.
You're a good singer. I'm horrible. The only thing I think my character sang in Godspell was light under a bushel. For some reason, I remember those words. So that was the only involvement, but I loved it. Very, very much. And the woman who taught drama was inspiring to me. Not enough so that I would remember her name. But 75 is when I graduated. So forgive me, there's been a few years. What would that be? 38? 48? 43? 43. Oh,
I have to get into Sherlock mode to do math.
Yeah, 75 to present is 43 years. That can't be possible.
Going to my mind palace. No.
All right, we have time for one more.
Okay, how about two more?
Okay.
They just have their Instagram handle, GQBed, at GQBed. When you originally set out to do a more relaxed Charlie Rose show, did you hope it would be this far into the run? And is there a new challenge that you would like to tackle with this show?
Great question. So I used to call the show Charlie Rose But Fun, and then Charlie Rose got a little handsy. So I stopped that reference. But I've said it so many times that must be what the reference and the question is about. Yeah, so 9 years in March. We were 9 years old, so next March will be 10. And the idea was I've always been thoroughly engaged, sometimes mesmerized by people's life stories. How did you get from there to here? Everyone's story is different. I just saw on the table here at Earwolf where every person, guest or otherwise, writes their name, and right in front of me this whole time it says, "Hi, Michael Ian Black." Sorry, I digress. So
I know it's a little distracting to record at this table because I do tend to read all the graffiti that's on the table.
There's 75,000 signatures in graffiti. So I'd say I didn't have any notion at all that it would last 9 years or more. I didn't know. 9 years ago, 9.5 years ago, podcasts were a question mark. Now, people here at Earwolf, performers and talent that have created their own universes from podcasts. There are people who travel the world on stage and live performances of their podcasts. How Did This Get Made? Comedy Bang Bang. That
Icecapades, Tiny Toons,
That's
Kenny
right.
G.
Getting back to Wayne's World 2. So that these performers, Paul F. Tompkins, genius, wonderful, but would he have the onstage draw all over the world as a solo artist compared to being a part of Comedy Bang Bang? Arguably no. So what podcasts have done for artists who have given their lives to them speaks for itself. One of the other questions I saw was more in regards to, do I think podcasts will be around 10 years from now? And what I wanted to say in that regard was that I did not know 9.5 years ago. Not only will they be around 10 years from now.
That was from Casey Lyons.
Thank
do you
you.
think podcasting will wear itself out and become outmoded, or do you think it will continue to grow and gain respect as a legitimate medium?
Thank you, Casey Lyons. So 9.5 years ago, no way in hell. Today, not only will it be around 10 years from now, I'm just as an example, I'm going to be launching 2 other podcasts soon, one of which here on Earwolf. And the contract negotiations are just as insane as they are for a television studio or a network of the broadcast world. So that's how serious it's become. When we started 9.5 years ago, maybe there were 30 podcasts. Now there are over 300,000, technically and seriously. So there are stand-up comedians, there are authors, there are musicians, there are people in the tech world, people in the literary world who have found a connection to audiences that they would have never found without podcasting. And that is an explosion and a celebration that I am thrilled to be a part of and look forward to continuing doing so. Not a bad way to wrap this up. I'm going to just say, or do you have one last?
2 more, but one's really short.
Okay, good.
Because I genuinely want to know the answer to this one.
Well, that's a first.
Yeah. Sean Flagg from Instagram, the S Flag, at the S Flag. Which movie franchise, past or present, doesn't have to be current, would you have liked to have been a part of?
Wow. What I would like to have been a part of.
Right, because I always joke that I'm like, you're the only actor not in the Marvel universe.
She loves that joke. I'm not the biggest fan in the world of the entire Marvel universe, so that's a no.
I think they already, unless you're like a Jawa, there's not really Jews in Star Wars.
Yeah, why aren't there any Jews in Star Wars?
The Jawas.
Because they were scavengers?
Barter. They would sell you bad droids at retail.
That's not anti-Semitic at all.
I can say that because you're here.
I'm going to say the Star Wars universe.
Bum droids at retail.
Yeah. I would like to be head Jawa, apparently.
No, you did Ewok voices.
I am in the...
So I guess does that count? You did do Ewok voices.
Yeah.
For the Battle of Endor.
Battle of Endor. I get a check for 13 cents every now and then for doing this. Thank you. That's worth 13 cents. So I'm going to go Star Wars.
Okay. And last question from Linda Shortman from Instagram. Shortman! At Mom Loves Film. Keith?
Yeah, I remember that being my favorite question of all of them. And the answer is, that's hilarious.
Keith?
No one I've asked that question to has just laughed and said, that's hilarious. But that is, in fact, the correct answer to that question. But I do love asking that. So thank you for that question. Thank you, Sammy, the greatest engineer the world has ever known. All the folks here at Earwolf.
My pleasure.
Yes, thank you. Sam, have a good weekend.
I will. Thank you. You too.
You have any plans? Any special?
There's a bunch of movies coming out this weekend that look good.
Such as?
Ocean's 8.
Hello.
Hotel Artemis. And the one we already have tickets for, which I've been dying to see, is Will You Be My Neighbor, the Mr. Rogers documentary. Looks
I have an appointment
amazing.
in my phone under the calendar to bring a box of Kleenexes when we see that movie tomorrow, a Saturday, because it's not going to be pretty.
Oh, no, I can't get through the trailer.
Nope.
Without
you can't.
crying.
Yeah, that's going to
So
be.
I'm very excited.
He may be the greatest human that ever lived.
Absolutely, and no one will argue you.
Yeah.
He just wants everyone to be a good person.
Yeah. That's it.
And it's impossible.
Yeah.
He dreams the impossible, and it's for everybody to be a good person.
You're going to cry. You're going to cry just thinking about these words. Thank you to Corey Levin for post.
Who I'll see you in a little bit, Corey, at Disneyland.
At the D-Land.
I got to go hunt down Doctor Strange.
Thank you, everyone, even the ones we didn't get to who wrote questions. And also write to us, please, at kpcsfanmail@gmail.com or Twitter and Instagram, and let us know. Don't yell at Jamie, but let me know whether you enjoyed this or not.
I do want to plug myself. If you want to find me, I don't do the only social media I really do is Instagram.
That's right.
And I'm at Jamal Fox. That's JamalFox. And if you want to, it's going to be a lot of what you would expect. A lot of Simpsons, me at Disneyland, and Benedict Cumberbatch. It's not going to be.
And the cat, 400%
and the cat.
More Edie.
Yeah.
Let us know, kpcsfanmail@gmail.com, whether or not you enjoyed this or we should never do it again. Until next time, and as always, get out of my face.